is Good Morning Indiana, working for you.
The time right now is 4:27 here on our Wednesday. Thanks for joining us on Good Morning Indiana. I'm Lauren Casey.
And I'm Meredith Barrick. We are waking up and looking at the results from the primary election that took place yesterday. There are still a number of ballots that need to be counted. This is in Marion County, Boone County, and Monroe County. This is due to a number of mail-in ballots. And then, of course, because those lines were so long due to pandemic precautions.
Yeah, so they're waiting to count several of those ballots, but we are learning results from some key races and some contested races, including the 5th District. That's up northern parts of Hamilton County and several other counties. So we'll be breaking down the results that we do have here this morning, and of course we'll keep you updated. We do want to talk about the curfew still in effect here in Marion County. They also, Meredith, put a curfew in effect in Carmel for the foreseeable future.
There is still roughly about an hour and a half left of that curfew here in Marion County. As Lauren just mentioned, up in Carmel, that curfew ends at 5 a.m., so in about half an hour. Just something to be aware of. Now, you are exempt from it if there is an emergency, if you are going to and from work, or if you live downtown in this area here. If you're at your home, obviously, just stay in your home until then. So we will keep you updated on whether or not that curfew will be in place again this evening. We're keeping a close eye on that. But in the meantime, we want to hand things over to meteorologist Todd Clausen. Yesterday was warm, and today it's going to be just about the same, Todd.
Yeah, good morning, ladies. You're exactly right there, Meredith. We're talking about temperatures in the upper 80s, right around 90 degrees once again today. The difference is today we'll add in the chance of a few thunderstorms later on this afternoon and this evening. This morning it is all quiet. We're building in a little bit of cloud cover, but as you see on the center of your screen there, Storm Team 6 radar is nice and quiet. The other thing you notice, the temperatures. We're only in the 70s here this morning. It was much cooler yesterday morning when we got down into the 50s and 60s. So as you walk out the door this morning, you are walking out to a warmer air mass to start, and we're going to get the high temperature back up anywhere from about 87 to 90 degrees today. The humidity comes up a little bit more here throughout the day today. It's not going to be that stifling or oppressive humidity, but enough that I think you will be able to feel. And then those storms will start to drop into the state from north to south throughout the afternoon and into the evening hours. We'll time those storms out for you, which should be brief if you do see them coming up in just a little bit.
All right, Todd, thank you so much. We are covering stories to help you rebound out of this pandemic. Our Amanda Starantino is looking at ways we can help your mental health, and sometimes you just need to let loose and dance. So she's going to tell you a little bit about Naptown Stomp and how they're bringing their famous old-fashioned dance classes right to your living room virtually. We'll have that story plus more coming up on Good Morning Indiana.
This is Good Morning Indiana, working for you.
Many counties are still counting votes after a record-setting primary election. Now at 4:30 on Good Morning Indiana, we're breaking down the latest results.
And protesters across the country and here in Indiana continue to gather in massive numbers. Working for you this morning, the latest as the calls for change continue to grow louder.
And the death of a local business owner and former IU football player is hitting the community hard. This morning, how friends are remembering and honoring the life and legacy of Chris Beatty. It is 4:30 here on your Wednesday morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Meredith Barrick.
And I'm Lauren Casey. We do have Todd Clausen, social distancing from home again on this Wednesday. Todd, good morning to you. What can we expect in today's warm forecast?
Yeah, you know, there's a lot going on today as we build back in the humidity, the heat that you mentioned, Lauren. It's going to be warm. And today, we're going to add the chance of some thunderstorms into this forecast. We're sitting in the 60s and 70s right now already. So we're getting off to a very, very warm start. Yesterday's high was 87. We should easily get back to at least that number here throughout the course of the day today. Here are the high thin clouds that are starting to make its way into the area. And then to the north, you notice that line of storms just north of Chicago. It's going to take its jolly old time getting here. Distance-wise, it's really not that far away, but it's going to slowly just start to sink to the south, and that's what's going to bring the thunderstorms into our forecast later on this afternoon. So a lot of dry hours here throughout the day today, but you just need to be weather aware to know that these storms will arrive later on this afternoon. We'll use TrueCast and time them out for you hour by hour coming up in just a little bit.
All right, Todd, thank you so much. Here's a live look right now in the downtown area. I-65 5 at Washington Street. You can see traffic is moving along up to speed. Again, a reminder, we still have that curfew in effect, but it looks like all the ramps heading into downtown are open this morning. There weren't any police out there or traffic restrictions to slow you down if you're trying to get to work or maybe even head to one of the hospitals in the downtown area this morning. So we'll continue to monitor the situation and let you know if there are any delays or issues you need to avoid. Well, this morning, more results are in after a record-setting primary election here in the state of Indiana.
Many counties still tallying votes due to an unprecedented number of mail-in ballots and pandemic precautions. Here are the results we have so far. One of the most watched races in central Indiana is to replace Susan Brooks as 5th District Representative. Victoria Sparks has been declared the winner of the Republican primary with 41% of the vote. She'll go up against Christina Hale, winner of the Democratic primary, with 39% of the vote.
We are also keeping track of the referenda for 2 school districts. Washington Township proposed 2 referenda. One was for operations, including a boost in teacher pay. That was approved. 64% of people there voting yes. Now, the construction referendum also given the okay there with 60% of the vote.
Beech Grove also put up 2 referenda for vote. Their operations proposal sits at 61% yes. The construction referenda counts 60% in favor. You can find more election results scrolling at the bottom of your screen and at theindychannel.com. For the 3rd straight night, a curfew order is in place in Indianapolis and around all of Marion County. Mayor Joe Hogshead's office says the curfew will be in effect until 6 this morning. You cannot be in downtown Indianapolis unless you're home, going to work, or have a medical emergency. Anyone found in violation of the curfew could face up to 180 days in jail and fines up to $10,000. And Carmel is joining Indianapolis in issuing a nighttime curfew. It went into effect at 9 last night and runs until 5 this morning. This will be a nightly curfew in effect until further notice.
Well, these curfews are in response of nights of violence and looting following peaceful protests that are in response to the death of George Floyd. Protesters want you to know that they're not the rioters or the looters. They also say these demonstrations are not in response to just one incident. Many say they're simply fed up with injustice. They are marching and protesting because they want to make sure that their message is heard. And now they admit that getting the message across doesn't always look pretty or, as we saw the past 2 nights, peaceful. This is what one woman had to say about how people are reacting.
However, you may look at it, it's still, we're being done wrong, and no one is taking a look at that. They're looking at the actions from what we're doing, but our actions are a reaction to what's been done to us.
Like, there's been multiple times where I've gone to Kilroy's, the bar, and I've used one form of ID, and my friend of color was denied because he didn't have 2 forms of ID when I got in with an expired 1 ID.
Protest leaders have said to keep it peaceful, and they want people to see it's about being treated equally and bringing together people from all different walks of life to make a lasting change.
Another night of protests around the nation, thousands demanding justice for George Floyd. This as President Trump faces backlash over his handling of the crisis. ABC's Inez de la Catera is in Washington with the latest.
Overnight, the nation seeing a fresh wave of protests. Thousands from coast to coast peacefully making their voices heard.
We don't want to do anything that's not peaceful. We've been peaceful all day.
But in some parts, things once again taking a violent turn.
We're both angry. We're just expressing it in different ways. And people will say it's hijacking, but at the same time, it's clear everybody's angry.
Near Boston, groups throwing fireworks and water bottles at officers. In New York City, protesters defying the 8 p.m. curfew. Streets in the city's Soho section closed after luxury stores like Chanel and Gucci were vandalized in recent nights. And in Washington, this stunning image, members of the National Guard lining the steps at the Lincoln Memorial. President Trump, meanwhile, now facing backlash from church leaders after he used government forces to remove peaceful protesters from a park so he could be photographed outside a historic church.
He is not entitled to use the spiritual symbolism of our sacred spaces.
D.C.'s Catholic Archbishop Wilton Gregory also condemning Trump's visit Tuesday to a Catholic shrine, saying it was a publicity stunt and called it baffling and reprehensible. And the president's 2020 opponent piling on.
A country is crying out for leadership. Leadership that can recognize pain and deep grief of communities, that have had a knee on their neck for a long time.
And Biden is now calling on Congress to ban chokeholds, and he's vowing to establish a National Police Oversight Commission if elected. Inez Delaquatera, ABC News, Washington.
The time right now is 4:37. Former President Barack Obama will address the recent protests against police violence on Wednesday. That's today. He will participate in the MBK Alliance Town Hall Series. Obama will be joined by police reform activists and public figures, including his former Attorney General Eric Holder. This will be the 44th president's first on-camera comment since the death of George Floyd sparked nationwide protests. Earlier this week, he laid out an action plan calling for political solutions to address the protesters' grievances about criminal justice. He also condemned the violence happening across the country. The town hall will be live streamed on Obama.org beginning at 5 o'clock this evening. And former President George W. Bush also released a statement this week saying it's time, quote, time for America to examine our tragic failures. The statement goes on to say that he and former First Lady Laura Bush resisted the urge to speak out because, quote, this is not the time for us to lecture. It's time for us to listen. The former president also denounced the looting and destruction that has occurred in some cities in the recent days, saying, quote, looting is not liberation and destruction is not progress.
I think who was a pillar in the community and meant nothing but good, for him to go out like that, it just hurts. You know what I mean? It hurts.
We're learning more about the life and legacy of Chris Beatty. The 38-year-old was a well-known Indianapolis business owner, former IU football player, and Cathedral High School alumnus. He was shot and killed Saturday night near Vermont and Talbot. Right now, it's unclear if the shooting is connected to the downtown demonstrations. Friends describe Beatty as a man who loved people and was full of positivity. And now they're hoping police find who did this and took someone so loved by so many.
Chris, he didn't know a stranger, regardless of, your race, your religion, your political views. No matter where your walk of life has taken you, he loved you for who you were. He accepted you for who you were.
All he wanted to do was just see people succeed around him and just keep positive people around him. He was just one of those guys, self-driven, self-motivated.
And this morning, a visual tribute to a life cut short yesterday. Artists painted this mural of Chris Beatty. It's on Vermont Street in downtown Indianapolis, where Beatty was killed. Police are still looking for tips in this case. If you know anything, you can submit information anonymously to Crime Stoppers. That number is 317-262-TIPS.
We can tell you police have made an arrest in connection to another deadly downtown shooting on Saturday. 29-year-old Tyler Newby is preliminarily charged with the murder of 18-year-old Dorian Murrell. He was shot at Market in Pennsylvania. We are working to learn a motive in this case as well. Well, with so many heavy events happening in our world right now, many parents may be wondering, how do you talk to your kids about what's going on? Up next, the advice from experts on how to handle these tough discussions.
And virus concerns are moving the Colts training camp from the Grand Park Sports Campus. Details on the shift and when the boys in blue will hit the practice field. Todd.
All right, Meredith, we're dry right now. We're dealing with warm and muggy conditions currently across central Indiana, but you see those storms to the north. They will slowly be dropping down to the south as the day progresses. And a couple of those storms could be strong to severe. We'll have the timeline and look ahead to the rest of the weekend, into the weekend for you coming up when Good Morning Indiana continues. The time now is 4:40. Stay with us. We're back in just a couple minutes.
Visit the Hiring Hoosiers job board.
Welcome back. The time right now is 4:43. Let's take a look right now at traffic. This is I-70 a little west of Lyndhurst Drive. You can see traffic heading westbound is moving along up to speed. A heads up, though, for drivers on the west side trying to get to the downtown area. Eastbound lanes of I-70 are closed through June 28th for a major construction project. This starts at the Ronald Reagan Parkway near the airport. You can take the collector ramp to 465 to reroute in that area.
Now to the latest on the coronavirus pandemic and how it's affecting Hoosier lives. The State Department of Health is reporting an increase in the number of new COVID-19 deaths and new cases. Health officials confirm 46 new deaths from the coronavirus. That's 37 more deaths than were reported Monday. Some of the newly reported deaths date back to early April. So far, 2,022 Hoosiers have died from the virus. The Department of Health reports 430 new cases of COVID-19. That's also up. Since the pandemic began, 35,237 people in Indiana have been diagnosed with the coronavirus. Nearly 272,000 people in the state have been tested for COVID-19. 13% tested positive. The state also shows about 44% of Indiana's intensive care unit beds are available. COVID-19 patients are using 14% of the ICU beds, and non-COVID patients are using 42% of the beds.
Worldwide, more than 6.3 million people have contracted COVID-19. That's according to Johns Hopkins University. More than 1.8 million of those cases are right here in the United States. 380,318 people have died from the virus, including more than 106,000 Americans. Around 2.7 million people have recovered from the virus worldwide.
President Donald Trump is once again threatening to pull the Republican National Convention from North Carolina. In a tweet, he says the GOP has been forced to seek another state to host. He's blaming Democratic Governor Roy Cooper, who has asked for a scaled-down convention due to COVID-19. Cooper says the August convention would likely require social distancing and face coverings. Party leaders are reportedly considering other cities to host and have imposed a deadline of today to reach a deal with Cooper. Democrats, meanwhile, have signaled their convention might be entirely virtual.
Well, the Colts don't know when training camp will be held, but they know where it will be held, and it's not up in Westfield. According to the team, the National Football League informed the clubs that the upcoming camps must be held at their practice facilities. That means the Colts training camp will be held at the Indiana Farm Bureau Football Center in Indianapolis. The start date will be announced later, and the decision is based on risk factors related to COVID-19 and protecting the health and safety of both players and staff members. The Colts say the organization looks forward to returning to the Grand Park Sports Campus next year. At 4:46, it is time to get a check of our forecast. And if you are heading outside today, Todd, we may need to dodge some rain showers. What can we expect?
Yeah, you know, later on this afternoon, Lauren, there's going to be a weak front that's going to be making its way through the area. And it's a cold front, but it's really just going to change the wind direction a little bit. But it is going to be enough to spark some showers and thunderstorms. And that's what you see here on your screen now are the rain chances. So we're really fine through about mid-afternoon. Once we get past mid-afternoon into the evening hours, that's when the rain chances are going to start to ramp up. So if you're thinking about outdoor plans, just know if you go this morning, you have no issues at all. As you go into the afternoon hours, if you're grilling out, just know you're going to start to run into some issues in spots. And I'll time those storms out for you in just a second. But first things first, it is a warm morning here across the area with temperatures that are in the 60s and 70s currently. It's muggy as well. And that humidity is going to be a little more bit of a player in the forecast here throughout the day today than it has been the past a few days, as you kind of noticed the humidity creeping up a little bit throughout the day yesterday, but it wasn't all that bad. Some high thin clouds starting to spill into the area right now, but here is the line of showers and storms that is to the north. And what's going to happen is these storms are really actually just going to slowly start to drop down to the south throughout the course of the day. But slowly is the key word there. As we go over to TrueCast and we time it out for you hour by hour, watch what happens. By the noon hour, we're dealing with hazy sunshine still, no issues. We warm really, really quickly throughout the day today. And then once we get towards the 5 o'clock hour, we start to drop these storms in from north to south. So the further south you are, you probably don't even see the storm threat in your area, Bloomington, Seymour, until close to sunset and then beyond. Obviously, it's a little sooner in northern locations. And then we'll deal with some of these storms even into the overnight hours. And some of them could have some gusty winds accompanying with maybe some small hail as they make their way through the area. And the temperatures today are going to really differ from whether you see the storms early on. That'll keep your temperatures in the mid to upper 80s. But for those locations down to the south that don't see the storms until late tonight, you probably get at least to 90 degrees later on today. Tomorrow, more in the way of clouds, more in the way of scattered showers and storms. As a result, just a touch cooler, but still above normal in the mid 80s. And then we'll stay in the 80s straight across the board. We are settling into a very summer-like and warm weather pattern across the area. The one thing you do notice right in the center of your screen for Saturday and Sunday, which is obviously good news, we take the rain out of the forecast. It's still warm with temperatures in the mid 80s, but the humidity should come down a little bit for Saturday, Sunday, and then again on Monday.
All right, Todd, thank you so much. It is 4:49. Let's take a look right now at traffic as you're heading out on the roads. Here's a look right now on the east side, the interchange with I-65. This is a little north of I-70 there, and you can see traffic is moving along up to speed. Don't forget we still have a curfew in effect for Indianapolis and Marion County, so keep that in mind. Just people heading to work or for any medical issues should be on the roads right now. We'll continue to keep you updated if there are any crashes or delays. Well, with the coronavirus pandemic and the protests going on all across the country taking center stage, some parents may be wondering right now, how do you explain what's going on to your kids?
Our partners at Newsy asked the experts. A report found that 48% of kids surveyed said following the news is important to them, but 63% said it makes them feel sad or angry. Experts say it's okay for parents to admit they're still processing thoughts and feelings too. They also say parents should monitor what their kids are taking in online.
Just the main thing is to reassure them that we are adults, we're figuring this out. We will keep you safe. That is our job.
One has to negotiate that very carefully so that as they try to protect young people from some of the things that they see on social media, that they also don't eliminate the sources of normal peer interaction and support that they need during this time when they're not going to school, not going to sports, not going to social clubs.
Experts also say it's important for parents to remember that kids are watching and how parents react plant the seed for what they do or don't do in the future.
Well, Bank of America is pledging $1 billion to help fight racial inequality. CEO Brian Moynihan made the announcement in a press release on Tuesday. He said underlying economic and social disparities were exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic and the death of George Floyd and have created a sense of urgency. The $1 billion will go to community programs and minority-owned small businesses over the next 4 years. It will also help expand services like vaccination clinics in communities of color and help recruit new bank employees in economically disadvantaged communities. A Virginia brewer is looking for someone to hike the entire Appalachian Trail. Coming up, the details on the job and its big perks.
And this morning, votes are still being counted in Marion, Boone, and Monroe counties. Coming up at 5, we're talking to the Marion County Election Board to see how the coronavirus affected this year's primaries and looking ahead to November. It's 4:51. We'll be right back.
Home experts at theindychannel.com.
It is 4:55 here on your Wednesday. This is a live look right now at I-70 near Ronald Reagan Parkway. This is the spot where that closure goes into effect on the eastbound lanes, taking you all the way into the downtown area, the South Split. That project expected to last through June 28th, and the collector ramp here to 465 remains open for your detour.
One lucky hiker who wants to take on the Appalachian Trail will get paid $20 grand to do it. You also have to love beer. Devil's Backbone Brewing Company is accepting applications for its chief hiking officer. The person who lands the gig will trek the entire 2,200-mile trail from Georgia to Maine, consuming and sharing plenty of brews along the way. The job even comes with a $20,000 stipend and free travel to the trailhead. Gear is also included, but no hotel expenses, so hopefully there's a tent in that gear, and beer. Devil's Backbone estimates it will take 5 to 7 months to complete the assignment, which starts next year. Two things Todd Clausen loves: hiking and beer. We don't want you to leave us, Todd, but that might be very appealing to you.
You know, the Appalachian Trail growing up in New Jersey went right through the northern portion of the state, so I've hiked a brief portion of the Appalachian Trail, but you're right. I like beer, I like hiking. I just don't have the time right now, Meredith, to do that thing, but it's kind of a cool thing. Absolutely. All right, 89 degrees. Your high temperature today will build in some scattered storms later on this afternoon, mainly after 4 or 5 o'clock. Better storm chances Thursday and Friday, but still plenty of dry hours those days as well, and that'll set us up for what should be a really nice weekend across the area. Very summer-like, the first full weekend of June here with high temperatures in the mid-80s and mostly sunny skies. It's 4:57. You're watching Good Morning Indiana. We're back at the top of the hour. Stay with us. We'll see you in a few minutes.